Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg King, and I manage the ground division for Phase 1 Industrial for the Americas. I'm very excited, along with our partners from Digital Transitions and Pixel Acuity, to present you to our webinar about a project that was undertaken to catalog a painting collection using our newest cultural heritage camera, the IXH. But first, let's go over the agenda. I'm going to speak a little bit about Phase 1, and then we're going to have Pete Siegel from Digital Transitions talk a little bit about his company. And then we'll get on with the main event with Eric from Pixel Acuity. And then after that, we'll have a short discussion between Peter and Eric on any topic that we feel we missed in the webinar. And then you're going to come back to me, and we're going to do a Q&A session. And one note about the Q&A session is that you'll be asking your questions on the actual control panel of GoToMeeting. And you can ask anytime during the seminar, and then they'll be answered at the end. So let's get started with a brief overview of Phase 1. Phase 1 is the largest manufacturer of medium format cameras in the world. We have factories in Copenhagen, we have one in Israel and Japan, as well as sales offices around the world. The company was started in 1993, selling professional medium format cameras to photographers. In 2012, two new industrial divisions were created. The industrial area division specializes in aerial cameras for fixed wing planes, helicopters, as well as drones. And the industrial ground division specializes in machine vision and inspection cameras, as well as cameras for digitization of cultural heritage collections. Phase 1 is also a leader in software applications for those industries, including our award-winning Capture One cultural heritage software and our IX Capture software for aerial people. Our flagship cultural heritage camera is the IXH. It is a 150 megapixel camera that goes hand in hand with our Capture One cultural heritage software to create an efficient workflow, including automatic capture, auto crop, as well as auto alignment for doing flat artwork, books, and transparencies, etc. We also offer a 100 megapixel camera called the IXG. Both cameras come in RGB, achromatic, and wide spectrum, also referred to as NIR. The IXG also comes in a multispectral version. And new to the lens line is the 72mm Mark II lens, which has increased resolution for the 150 megapixel chip in the IXH by using a floating element that's actually controlled by the firmware. And both the IXH and the new 72mm lens will be discussed in more detail by Eric from Pixel Acuity. The Phase 1 IXH, the IXG, and the Capture One CH software are represented exclusively in North America by our cultural heritage partner, Digital Transitions. And today we're very happy to have the founder of Digital Transitions Cultural Heritage, Pete Siegel, with us. I'm going to ask Peter to tell us a little bit about Digital Transitions before having him introduce our special guest speaker, Eric Philcox from Pixel Acuity, who will show us his presentation. After Eric's presentation, we will have some time for some questions. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Pete.
Greg, thank you very much for introducing me, and Eric, again, thank you for your patience while I give my part of the presentation before we get on to the main event, which is you. Just to give a little information about Digital Transitions and its Cultural Heritage Division. Digital Transitions has been a Phase 1 dealer since 2003, and we started our division of Cultural Heritage in 2005. And since we've started in 2003, we have been Phase 1's largest dealer. Now, whoops, how'd that happen? I'm sorry, guys, I got this backwards here. Just bear with me. It always happens, right? Okay. Okay, so when Digital Transition talks about its business units, the Cultural Heritage Business Unit, we refer to it as GLAMS, which for us stands for galleries, libraries, which include both cultural heritage and the corporate libraries, archives, which is again cultural heritage archives, personal archives, and corporate archives, museums, as well as service bureaus. So back in 2005, when we started the cultural heritage division, we were using off-the-shelf equipment, standard SLR cameras from phase one, whatever copy stands we could find on the market. And we found that even though like the image quality on the phase one SLR type camera, whether it was on a Hasselblad H1 or a DF system, really did not meet the quality needs and the durability needs of the cultural heritage community. So we set out to start building solutions specifically for this business sector. So in 2007, Digital Transitions designed an optical camera bench called the DTR cam. And it was really the first reprographic camera that worked with a phase one digital back. And this was a purpose-built camera that had a very high modulation resolution lens, and it had extremely high shutter durability as well. And again, this was a system that was uniquely designed for the cultural heritage market space. If we fast forward about 5 years, DTA started to sell a lot of its solutions to the GLAMS market. Phase one took a look at what we were doing, and they were very impressed that we had a lot of success in this particular market sector. So they asked us to partner with them to execute cultural heritage systems to their dealer channel worldwide. And from there, we started to build film scanning solutions for doing still film, roll film, glass plate negatives, reel-to-reel systems. We made solutions for book scanning with fragile books, rare books. We made solutions for flat materials, oversized systems as well. And along with that, we developed light solutions for all our systems called the DT Photon. So aside from all the hardware stuff, we also talked to phase one about making Capture One software specifically designed for this market sector. And I'm going to get into that just a little bit later. In 2017, and then fast forward to 4 more years afterwards, we talked to phase one in 2017 about more integration of the camera and automating resolution and so forth. And we started to work with them on a new reprographic camera called the IXG line. So I myself and Doug Peterson, head of R&D, went to Israel to start to spec out basically an RCam replacement, a unit that could do what the RCam was built for, but it had a lot more automation features built into it. So I told you I want to talk a little bit about software, and this was extremely important for Digital Transitions. So let me just kind of get all these points out here and talk about this. So it's interesting the fact that when an operator works on a camera solution, they a lot of times don't really think about the camera. They mostly interface with the software. So the software is a key component to any successful imaging solution. So even though Capture One had great features in it, most of them were designed for commercial applications, whether it's product photography, fashion, landscape, or fine art. It did have a lot of tools in it for cultural heritage, but it needed some extra stuff. So we worked with phase one to design auto crop and auto align, which people have said to me have saved them 1 full-time equivalent in post-production work. We developed with them special curves and color profiles to make sure that you can meet FADGI and ISO imaging preservation guidelines out of the box. We also designed with them special lab readouts for image quality conformity and so forth. On top of that, the next big thing was to make the software very simplified. So we came up with them and designed what we called Slipstream, which is a very simple user interface. And for me, what's interesting, and how I'm going to loop this back to Pixel Acuity, is that Pixel Acuity was actually one of the first people to beta test Capture One CH software. And with their input, we actually improved it quite a bit. So let's fast forward to today. So about a decade later, we further talked to phase one about what the market needs. Obviously, they always are hungry for more resolution, but high pixel count is just not enough. It was really imperative to have a new lens designed. The 100 megapixel ISG camera had a really excellent lens on it, but nothing compared to the new Mach 272. This lens is probably the best lens I've ever seen in my entire life. On top of incredible image quality is what we always expect out of phase one, we talked to them about helping automation. So with the DT autocolumn, the IXG camera, and Capture One Cultural Heritage software, it's a complete closed loop solution where the end user can just type in the resolution they want. The camera will move on the column to the correct spot relative to the object and put it in perfect focus, which is actually an incredible piece of technology, and people just absolutely love it. So enough about digital transitions and me. I want to start getting to Eric Philcox. Eric Philcox is the owner and founder of Pixel Acuity. Eric and I actually worked together at DT in 2005 for a few years before he moved on. We worked together on many cultural heritage installations and trainings, and Eric's background is in product photography and in technology, and he's one of the most talented people I've ever met. From digital transitions, Eric headed up in New York Public Library's digital imaging unit, and he had improved their throughput without adding any more hardware or staff by 4 times. And he did this by using DT and phase one technology, because Eric knew from the get-go that line scanners, those those cameras that use scanners that push out TIFF files, was not the way to go. Instant capture absolutely offers the most versatile workflow and allowed him to completely optimize operations at New York Public Library. From there, Eric decided to start his own company. You know, Eric's always been forward thinking, and I have to say, out of all the service bureaus that we support and sell to, Pixel Acuity by far is the most, I would say, ahead of the curve. Aside from mastering raw workflow and being able to digitize the broadest range of materials from fine art to bound materials to scientific collections, they also do some very interesting stuff in software on their own. They have advanced OCR capabilities. They're able to convert handwriting through machine learning and artificial intelligence to useful text that's properly formatted into correct metadata using Meta Alto formats, and so on and so forth. And it's just incredible the stuff that they're doing over there. So for me, it was really a no-brainer to have Eric field test the IXH 150. So Eric, aside from being the first beta tester of Capture One CH to provide his crucial feedback to what to make this tool useful in the market space, we gave Eric the pre-release of the IXH 150. From there, he took it to his shop, he plugged into his systems and make sure that the image quality would meet the needs out of the box. It had all the tools and efficiencies that he expected. And from there, we asked Eric to take the camera into the field and do some actual field work with it, meaning that, you know, go on location with it on a very important project, and just to give us back some real true feedback. So at this point, I'm going to hand this over to Eric. And before I do that, bear with me one more moment. If you haven't signed up yet for our virtual roundtable, which is extremely popular, there's still some time left. It's getting pretty full already, and the dates are the 15th and 16th. And I believe Kate, who is a organizer, will throw something in a chat window so you can get a link to the actual roundtable. So right now, I'm going to hand this over to Eric Philcox, who's our next panelist.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate the kind words, as always.
To see you right now. And let me turn my camera off.
All right, good to go. All right. Well, thanks again, Pete. I appreciate it. So Yeah, we were very excited to be able to start looking at putting the IXH, in action and testing it on some projects. And I gotta say, it went extraordinarily well. So the first place we brought it into was the Mennello Museum. It's a little small museum down in Central Florida in Orlando, or more accurately, Winter Park. If you ever get a chance, it's a great collection, mainly dealing with American artists. The actual collection that we were going to digitize is a part of the Melanson Holt Collection, and it showcases a variety of American artists that primarily focus on the Southwest. And this is a exhibition that'll be going up next year, and we were looking to digitize a collection for the creation of the accompanying catalog. So we've been working with the Mennello Museum for a few years now on a number of different projects, and always very excited to be able to bring this type of technology to even the small museums that nonetheless have fantastic collections. So that being said, maybe you're probably not too interested in our kit, as it were, in terms of what we tend to bring on location when we're shooting in galleries and museums and in spaces that really aren't purpose built for digitization work, but nonetheless we try to make it work. So in this particular case, we went with the phase 1 IXH. And very excited to kind of put this to the test after our initial testing showed fantastic results in terms of color accuracy, resolution, sampling efficiency, edge-to-edge sharpness. All these tests that we did shooting targets. It's great to finally kind of put actual works of art in front of it and see how it does. So, and then we like to pair that with the DT autocolumn. That gives us all the advantages that Pete had mentioned in terms of auto resolution, and we can very quickly and easily adjust to various sizes of material that we're shooting to get the highest resolution that we can out of each piece. You can kind of see that we are using the a custom base. It's hard to see in this. We'll have some photos of this, but it's a custom base made by DT. It's not a traditional copy stand in the sense that we need versatility when we go into, in a lot of cases, some unknown spaces. So, ceiling height is always an issue that we're battling because you never know where you're going to have to fit these solutions into. So we try to be as versatile as possible with that. And then we're using the Broncolor kit pack on this 3200 pack and the Unilite heads. The other thing that we always make sure that we bring along is the golden thread targets. It's one thing to talk about image quality and you can look at an image and make subjective analysis of it, but then you can always go by the numbers with the golden thread targets and software and just to validate, and then when we're shooting, what actually helps us make sure that our white point is correct, make sure our black point is correct, and just kind of gives us those guidelines when actually digitizing the materials, and then when we're in the post-production phase of the project. So the one thing that kind of really struck me, I've been used to going into these institutions using XF cameras, DF before that, and then most recently the IXG. But a lot of times we're shooting larger pieces of art, with XF cameras on an easel, and this type of system just really allows us to be that much more precise in leveling the system and squaring the art to the camera, and then that super precise focus control. So the setup in terms of getting this getting all this in the institution, getting this set up in the gallery space, was a lot simpler than I thought. we, like I said, we bring in the XF and easels, and we have a lot of capabilities for oversized materials with that. But bringing in a copy stand and a base, you'd think it would take, in an IXH camera, you'd think it would take, a significant amount of time to kind of set up and get ready to digitize. But frankly, it's very quick and easy, and we were set up and shooting within an hour. In large part to how easy it is to work with the IXH. So, kind of what we're here for, and what we will want to see is some of the image quality, image specs that we were able to get out of the IXH system. So, this has been an amazing experience working with this camera. This particular painting that we shot, I think it was in the neighborhood of between 18 and 20 inches. And we were able to digitize it at over 700 ppi, which that gives you 13,000 pixels on the long axis. And also, you can print this at 2 times the original input size at 300 dpi, which I think is truly fantastic. So, it's one thing to talk a little bit about file size, and I was just processing some of these, and this particular image came out at 16-bit. You're talking about a 695 megabyte file, which is truly, very large, and might have to get some of these institutions to start rethinking their storage requirements and needs, but that's never a bad thing. So one thing that really stood out is, truly impressive edge-to-edge sharpness. Now, we've been working with a lot of different lenses. I'm talking about, the XFs, DFs before that, and then the Mark I 72 millimeter lenses, all good lenses in their own right. But I think Phase 1 really took it to the next level in the designing of this lens. We won't get into too many of the specifics about focusing strategies, I guess, for some of these lenses, because they, have, not as precise control, especially with the XF, but very, very, you have to be very aware of where you're focusing and how you're focusing it to make sure that you have, decent edge-to-edge sharpness. With this camera, it is truly a flat field, and very, very sharp flat field, edge to edge. And, I know sometimes it's hard to see on a webinar screen or your computer screen, but, what I'm looking at, when I look at this file, on a calibrated monitor, it is truly, truly impressive at how sharp it is, edge to edge, with very little fuss in terms of, trying to pick a point of focus that'll give you decent results, from the edge of the frame to the center. This focus around the center, edge to edge, you're looking fantastic. And I have to say, it is the best lens that we've tested for flat out reproduction, period. And I have to give a lot of credit to Phase 1 in terms of developing this, and also Digital Transitions and Phase 1 for the fact that they are catering to this market. There's not a lot of manufacturers out there that when you're going through and looking for solutions to use, that they're creating custom camera profiles. They're creating true linear scientific and linear response curves. They're building tools to make our process easier, and that's why I've been a big believer in using this equipment for the last 15, 18 years. It's truly made my life a lot easier, and had been able to have us be a lot more profitable as a result. So next thing I want to talk about is what drives all of this, and that is the Capture One CH software. The color accuracy out of the box is really, really impressive. Now you can go and you can make your custom profiles and do work along those lines, to get even better. But I think that just even out of the box, your delta error rate for all the measured color channels is a very, very impressive. And I don't think that unless when you're on location, that's very important because you have a little bit less of a controlled environment than you would be at your own studio. Obviously, as the images come in, auto crop is making our lives very, very easy. Not having to draw each individual crop, that saves a ton of time when you're working with even dozens of images, not even taking into account thousands of images. And then you always have the handy capture resolution ruler, gives you quick and easy feedback as to where you are in terms of resolution, but then that's also, when you're doing post-production, but then also when you are in the live view mode with the IXG, it gives you immediate feedback as well. So that's quite handy. But in this case, you can see that we are at 722 PPI, and that's going to give you a 43-inch print at 300 DPI. So that'd be quite an impressive thing to put on your wall for sure. So I guess this is kind of the setup where you look at how we set up in different institutions and kind of make use of the gallery space for a day they might be closed. This actually photograph was taken not at Mennello, but at another museum in the Central Florida area, the Cornell Fine Art Museum at Rollins College. We actually were able to double up a little bit and get some additional images, get some additional shooting done while we were down there. It's truly, it's part of what I like to do in terms of being able to bring this technology to institutions that would ordinarily not have access to it, that are traditionally looking at, some old Canon or Nikon at best, but to be able to bring this type of resolution, this type of quality to their institution, and truly is very, satisfying for me. So we look at just an overview to recap of what I'm talking about here. Edge-to-edge sharpness, I can't say it enough. It's truly a game changer in terms of this lens combined with this 150 megapixel sensor. It's truly very, very impressive. Color accuracy out of the box, which is important, especially when you're working on location in environments such as this. And then the resolution, what can you say? I mean, that's you're truly being able to look at getting all of the available data off of most types of media in a single shot, and being able to know that was shot once, it was shot right, and not having to revisit that as resolution grows, because you're really able to capture all the detail available in that particular particular image or piece of art. So with that, want to bring Pete back in, and I know he had a couple questions he wanted to go over, and then we'll open it up to any questions that the audience might have.
Eric, thank you very much. That was great to hear your review of the camera, and sounds like you got a lot of work done down on your trip.
Absolutely.
So, without giving away your shop, I do have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Feel free to not answer parts if you don't want to. So I know as a company that you guys digitize a lot of different types of material, right? So
Yep.
You have fine art, whether it's sculpture, paintings, textiles, you have biological specimens, natural history materials, bound materials, works on paper. You're doing this all through the same ecosystem of software? Is that by choice, or is that by design, or just by convenience? I'm just very curious on your thought with this.
Right. So yeah, and in terms of capture and processing, absolutely. We been working with Capture One for quite some time now. Back in the Capture One 3.6, 3.7 days. And so there's a certain familiarity with it, but there's also the fact that they have really embraced the cultural heritage market and giving us tools that are extraordinarily useful, when doing post-production at the scale that we're doing it at. So in addition to that, they also have the SDK out there that allows us to start to programmatically attack some of the the processing problems that we have in terms of scale, and then also the automator tool, being able to create our own automated workflows, within Capture One, and then have them part of Capture One and part of our custom setup of Capture One, in terms of, it's been a truly great, piece of software to work with.
I imagine that's a bit of a cost savings for you regarding staff training and that kind of stuff, to have one general ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a number of stations working at our DC area, Chantilly offices, and all over the country, really. We have projects running in California, Chicago, New York, DC, and being able to all do it in one ecosystem, in one workflow, and makes my life quite a lot easier, for sure.
Yeah. So I imagine, one of the things that you look for is time savings wherever you can get, because ultimately it's probably about, well, I can't say for certain, obviously, but I assume it's about, how much quality material that's done consistently you can kind of get through the machine, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
So how has, these technologies over the years changed in your mind, to help that process?
Well, they've certainly, come a long ways into, helping the operator, really. Our operators focus more on image handling and less on the software. So automating certain tasks, not having to, have fewer inputs and fewer adjustments that need to be made in a typical shooting day. So that really allows us to really focus on the materials and the material handling, potentially even hiring people that is their specialty, not necessarily being photographers, but having a background in material handling. And that is obviously, with some of the collections that we work with, that's a big concern. That was a big, point of emphasis. So having the software kind of get out of the way of that, and being a lot more ease of use has been a tremendous benefit, because it really opens up the skill sets of people that we potentially hire.
Yep. And we did talk about the IX play. I mean, it's kind of like the predecessor to the RCam, which I know you've used in the past.
Yeah, we still do.
Yep. And the RCam was probably one of the first purpose-built devices on the market for this kind of work, and the IX platform is now, that and more, especially with the lens and such. So with that in mind, I mean, do you ever use your XF camera anymore, or is it purely, IX technology all the way at this point?
We do use the XF camera. We do have one. I think we have a couple of them, and primarily we use those for 3D works. So, okay. We'll go in and we'll have sculptures that we need to shoot. We have, ceramics, any 3D type project that we have out there. We have, and that's a great tool for that, because we can do focus stacking. We can do, all kinds of, really high resolution imaging on that. But it's not, you have, and that's a great tool for that. I mean, it truly is. Like the image stacking options and control on there is truly impressive. But in terms of flat art reproduction, the IXH is such a perfect, purpose-built tool that you have to have the right tools in the right places to be successful. And I think we're there with the IXH.
So is this a little hint to phase one that they need to put focus stacking inside the IX platform?
Well, potentially, but I think as is, it's a very nice camera. And actually, I've never tried to shoot an IXH on 3D objects. So besides, we've done a couple projects where we've done well, more than a couple, but we do natural history collection specimens that we've put the IX cameras on, and those have gone tremendously well. But it was all straight down. Photographing bees, photographing fossils, shells, and it's all, and that has worked out tremendously because of the precise, focus control. But being able to focus stack that, when you're dealing with larger specimens that you want to get a higher resolution on, that could be something. You might be onto something there, Pete.
All right. Well, we'll bring it back to phase one and campaign that for you a little bit.
There you go.
So I guess at this point, it kind of makes sense to hand the baton back to, or I should say the meeting baton back to Greg King. So I guess
Absolutely.
all can be on video here. So I guess you heard that comment. We have a new feature request. So I'm going to put a little pressure on you, Greg. When can we expect that implementation?
Let me take control here. Are we good?
There you go.
Okay, great. That's something we'll have to check into. That's nothing I can answer, and you can put me on the spot all you want. That's not. But we do have some questions to get to, and one was that focus stack thing. So you were right on for bringing that up. So we don't need to go through that question because I think you gave some good answers. And I'll let you guys decide who to answer these. The first one is, how are you squaring the camera to the subject plane?
Okay, sure. We use a laser align tool. So it's basically a filter that goes over the lens, and then you have a little box at the bottom that shoots up a laser off of the what you're putting the object onto, and then shoots it back down to, basically shoots it up to the filter you put over the lens, and on the inside of that filter there's a little white piece of tape, and that helps reflect it back down to the laser line target, and then you kind of square it up to make sure it's in the middle, and then you're basically right on, perfectly aligned.
Right.
Yeah, DT, that's part of our standard installation toolkit. All of our techs go out in the field with a laser align tool.
Oh, okay. Well, great.
Yeah.
And then the next one is, why choose soft boxes as opposed to raw strobe reflectors? I know either one you could answer that.
Yeah, I mean, there's number of options you can go with. Generally, we do choose the soft boxes because they're a little bit more versatile. When you go with raw reflectors, because of the variety of stuff we shoot, can be everything from things that have a lot of lacquer on them. Oil paintings tend to get a lot of specular highlights. I might go, if we were just shooting strictly like etchings or something like that, might make sense. But when you're dealing with a lot of, very different medias, in a short amount of time, generally goes to the, what's most versatile.
Okay, great. Peter, anything to add?
Not really. I mean, Eric's the master behind the camera.
Yeah.
Back in the day when I was doing this, a lot of it depends on what look I was going for, and obviously strobes have the most diverse array of light modifiers. So walking into a museum, I could say that, well, you never know what they're going to put in front of you for a freelance job. They may give you some armor, they may give you works on paper, they may give you a painting. Yep. So it's obviously diverse tool set.
Great. Well, the next one, are there tools to polarize, like a filter on the lens or the lights, while shooting highly reflective materials on a capture system like the DT Atom?
Yeah, you can certainly take the approach of cross polarization. Especially if you have highly lacquered materials and you have oil paintings that have a lot of texture to them. Those tend to really reflect a lot of specular highlights. Certainly there are ways to mitigate that to a certain point. We had actually one on this shoot where we had to lower the level of the lights, bring them further out, so that they're not as far over the object. And that actually worked in that particular case. But if I can make the adjustments with the lights, I like to do that before I start looking at cross polarization, because I think when you start cross polarization, you start to lose a little bit of color accuracy. And anytime you're putting a filter in front of your lens, you start to lose sampling efficiency.
Yeah, good response. What makes you choose linear response versus linear scientific?
So I think that they're both very, very close in terms of where they were, in terms of each individual, both of those film curves. And I think this one, usually we use linear scientific, and I don't know if I was on linear response on that one or not. Generally when we're shooting, we'll choose one or the other, but when it comes to the output, we'll make those decisions, based on client needs and client expectations.
Okay.
But
So
great, guys.
I can add
Go
a
ahead,
touch.
Peter.
yeah,
So,
Pete can talk a little
Absolutely.
bit more.
Linear scientific is one of those things. Be wary what you want. It's basically the linear curve has a subtle roll off on the high ketones on the regular linear curve. So if you say you have a bound book with a lot of roll into the gutter, you may have some potential of picking up a highlight there. So you might find in linear scientific that might start to clip because there's absolutely no safety net whatsoever in linear scientific. So you need to have a lot of control with what you're doing. That said, I think we've done some tests in-house where we find that it doesn't make a ton of difference when it comes to actually photographing works on paper, which one you really use in terms of image quality. It definitely will give you different data on a target, but at the end of the day, the community doesn't photograph targets, they photograph works of art. So you also have to be practical in what you're doing. But I know Spencer, one of our people that work in R&D, who's a bit of a film specialist like Eric, has discovered that linear scientific gives you a bit more control when converting photographic film to inversion back to positive. So I've seen samples that Spencer's done and Eric's done. I was like really amazed at the difference of image quality. And linear scientific definitely gave a better response. So it depends on what your application is. And again, not to keep bragging about Capture One, but what's really great about it is you
can brag about Capture One all you want.
Yeah, you can really grow with it. The more you master your craft, the more there is in there that you can use in Capture One. It's just an incredible piece of technology.
Okay, well, great, guys. That's the last of the questions. Really want to thank you for all the information. You guys gave a lot of information. Appreciate both the presentation, Eric, and then also the discussion between both of you. And I hope everybody enjoyed the presentation, and we look forward to seeing you again at one of our webinars. For a list of those webinars, you can visit our industrial website at industrial.phase1.com. And with that, I want to thank everybody for attending and have a great rest of your day.
Greg, thank you for putting this together and your marketing team as well.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.